Good morning, geeks. Seanorama here. Sean Geek Podcast, doing one of the live-ish episodes. It's a Wednesday morning. I'm going to post this once I get to some Wi-Fi signal. Kind of further update on the writing front, I guess, is what I wanted to do this morning. But I also want to cover, we had a great weekend. We got a call in from none other than Voicesbytracy. Tracy and Leith herself joined the show. It was a lot of fun. Actually, a lot of fun. This was the first time that Corey and Tracy had been in a room together, and they really cut it up. They were hilarious, downright hilarious. Can't wait to post that episode up. When we do the studio setting like that, there is a lot more editing that goes on. So I have another episode ready to go that I recorded earlier this week with my brother that I'm going to be putting up. Those ones are very easy to edit. They're very short, concise, very, very easy to do, very to the point. So I'm going to have that episode coming up next Monday. And going to continue working on editing the Meet the Geeks reunion, really. So that was myself, Todd, Corey, and Tracy, the full Sean Geek complement. I don't know, it was fun. I laughed so hard. It was so good. On the writing front, because I want to keep these brief, but on the writing front, as I've mentioned before, I'll reiterate really quickly. I've been getting up early every morning, committing minimum 3 days a week to getting up early and getting that writing done. And before I leave for work, before the kids wake up, before the wife wakes up, and getting it done. I've made a commitment to getting this darn thing done. So what's happened, because now I think I'm in a groove. I've been doing this for over a month now, and I feel like I'm in a groove. When I sit down, sometimes it takes me about, when I was in the groove, I could get right into it. As soon as my fingers touch the keyboard, I'm going. Ready to go, good content coming out right out of the gate. Creative juices are flowing. Don't have an issue at all. But what happened when you take a break like that, it's just like working out too. The first few minutes, you're like, maybe I'll check my Facebook. Maybe I'll check my Twitter. Oh, I wonder what someone's posted on Instagram. So you find yourself kind of meandering a little bit. It's like, well, I'm kind of not in the mood. Maybe I'll just look at a couple things first. And then, it takes about, and even if you are writing, you're just kind of staring at the page, rereading what you wrote the previous day, and you're just kind of, it takes a while to get going before you get some speed in your typing. And I'm kind of getting to the point where it's taking me about 5 or 10 minutes to get warmed up. But it's interesting. So I will get started in the morning, and after 5 or 10 minutes, I start writing, and then I keep going, and then inadvertently there's something that pops into your head, and it's usually something like, I gotta make my lunch today. I should probably bring extra. You just start to figure out your day, or I come up with a plan in my head, something work related, like, what if I did this today? I bet you that would make my day a little bit easier, or whatever. Like, I just start scheduling in my head, and that's generally what happens. And then next thing you know, because I basically giving myself 45 to 55 minutes in the morning. I set the alarm for 6, I set my secondary alarm for either 6:45 or 6:55 based on whether it's a shave day or I have to make my lunch day or whatnot. So, I mean, all in all, I'm probably getting a good 30 minutes of writing in the morning. So what happened yesterday, I got a good 30 minutes, maybe a little bit less, like a good solid writing within that 45-minute slot I gave myself yesterday. And I look at the clock and I'm like, well, I could keep going for another 10 minutes, another 15 minutes, nip the departure to go to work, and, I'll probably still be on time. But I'm like, no, stop here. Give myself some, something to look forward to. I'll take a lunch, bring the laptop. And that's exactly what I did. So, interesting, by doing that and leaving myself a bit of a cliffhanger, a writing cliffhanger, or a creative cliffhanger more concisely, that when I went back at lunch, I sat down, opened the laptop, plugged in the USB, started writing, like right out of the gate. It took me like a minute to read where I left off, going, oh yeah, that's what I was doing. Go in and then plowed through, and 45 minutes of straight writing at lunch outdid what I did that morning, even better. And what happened by splitting that up, I was actually more excited to get up this morning, because sometimes I may go, it's late, I'm tired. There's all these reasons to not get up early, or, and viable excuses like, oh, well, you can't get by on 4 or 5 hours sleep, or whatever. But, I actually was excited to get up this morning, and when the alarm went off, I was, really excited to get down and continue. So the chapter that I'm working through, the reason I got so excited is the chapter that I'm working through right now. Not going to spoil too much here, but it's in the back of an aircraft, and it's this character who is alone in her thoughts. And the original scene, as I'd written it, was, there's a kind of this is a character that I rewrote when I went through on this edit, but I had written an original backstory for this character that was lengthy and all this. And then when I came back to write this book again, the same character, I had, instead of going with the character's back history, I created more back history, and I started at a latter point in her life. Whereas in the original draft, from like 5 years old to, I kind of chronicled her from 5 years old to, like, I don't know, 15 years old or something like that. What I did in the rewrite, and then I added this character to the beginning of the book, like one of the first chapters, as a matter of fact. What I did instead is I started her at 25 years old. Different city, different culture. She still had the same culture, but she'd moved. So it started later in her life, to the point of, what gets her involved in this story. And when I got back to this chapter that I'd previously written, this was the first introduction to the character's backstory in the novel. And when I was going back and rereading it, going, wow, so she had this whole backstory that I'd written. I didn't forget about it, but, maybe some of the specifics were, I'd lost a little bit of what some of the specifics were. But as I was reading it, going, that really ties in really well with the new part I'd written that placed her at 25 years old instead of 15. They worked really well together. So because I'd spent, a whole chapter describing her at age 25 and who she was and where she was and how she gets brought into this story, now I had 2 chapters of her 5 to 15-year-old run, and from her 25 to, to modern day run. And it was, I had to make a choice. Am I going to, this is a 3rd level character. That's the problem. I decided she needed a little bit more meat, and that's why I added her into the beginning of the book. But now I've got 2 chapters dedicated to this character, and both really fit well together. I mean, the way the way her story develops by having it in 2 separate chapters. This woman is someone to look up to. She's a survivor. She's a fighter. She's just got such depth, and I'm like, because she's a 3rd level character in the book, what do? I can't dedicate a whole other chapter to this character unless I'm going to elevate her to a 2nd level or 1st level character in the book. You know, someone who actually has more weight. So then I started, so this is what happens between the writing in the morning yesterday to the writing at lunch. The whole time at work, you know, I'm doing my work, and a lot of it's kind of repetitive. So what I can do while I'm working and doing stuff, I got these ideas percolating in the background. And what it was percolating on was, if this character was no longer a 3rd stringer in the book, and if I actually wanted to elevate her above that, what could I do with her? What can I take from what I've already written and what her arc is in the story? What could I do to take what I already have, expand on it without, you know, ruining the rest of the story and suddenly making it about this character? What can I do to make it work? Can I make it work? What changes would I need to make? Would they be drastic, dramatic changes? And if so, by giving her more weight, am I taking more weight away from one of the other characters? Another character that's actually diametrically opposed to her from a story standpoint, from a personality standpoint. I've got, actually, now that I'm talking about this, I'm kind of realizing that the character that she opposes in the book is basically, they share a very similar story, and the only difference between these 2 stories, between the 2 of them, like their background leading into this novel, is that one had a couple more lucky breaks than the other. They easily could have become the same person, given different circumstances. And I like how that happens. You're writing a book, you don't plan or intend any of these things, but suddenly these things happen. So anyway, when I was finished writing at lunch yesterday, I was so excited. You know, I was like, okay, well, you know what? I gotta go back to work. You know, I've had my lunch. Time to go back to work. And ending off, I'm like, I can't wait to go back to this again. I want to know what's going to happen next. And this is what happens when you get deep into your book. And I've written a few things before, obviously. And what's really interesting is that you think you have control over your story. But subconsciously, it's your subconsciousness is actually driving the story. Your subconsciousness is coming to the front and pushing ideas through that you're writing. And it's almost like you're channeling some sort of spirit that's telling you what to write. It's very, very interesting. So I'm actually, because I've been doing this edit, going back into the edit for the last month or so, I think I'm at that comfortable place where I don't know what's going to happen next. Yes, I've written everything, but I've been adding parts and peppering and adding a little bit of flavor here and there to what I've previously written, that I don't know where this is going to go. And it's almost like I'm reading the book, not writing it, but actually reading it and not knowing what's going to happen next. That's exciting. I feel like I'm the reader now. It's an interesting dynamic. It's an interesting thing that happens. And as we're approaching the 15-minute mark, this is perfect. So I'm going to cap it off there. I'll give you another update on the writing, see how we're going. I'm going to write again today at lunch. I had to stop partway through chapter again. Still telling this woman's story. And just very excited with what am I going to do? How am I going to work this? Very, very excited. So see you guys on the flip side, and we'll send another one of these out soon. See you on the new episode, the new official episode on Monday, where we talk about the MCU and some of the actors and producers that are entering into the fray into Phase 4. See ya.